I've been rewatching old seasons of Dance Moms and I just, something about toxic moms. It's like candy. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. Hi, my name is Liz, and in today's video we are going to be doing my October reading wrap up. In the month of October I finished 10 books. All 10 of these, we had some highs, we had some lows. I did have one 5-star, which is really cool, and I'm just really excited to get into it and start talking about these. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. I need my reading journal. I always forget what I rate books. I should be able to just look at it and know what I rated it, but my brain can't hold that much information, unfortunately. So we truly started off the month with a bang, and that is Alchemized by Senlin Yu. I was so pleasantly surprised with this book, which I shouldn't have been surprised because I had heard so much hype about this, so much lore surrounding this author and her previous work, and I was really excited to read this book. I actually ended up buddy reading it with my coworker. We read this at the same time, and it was like every single day we were coming to work and we were chatting about where we were at, what our theories were moving forward, and it was just the best reading experience with this book. It is one of the most traumatic and heartbreaking books that I have ever read. If you are easily triggered by something, by anything really, please check the trigger warnings in this book because it gives you pretty much anything and everything that could be triggering. It is over 1,000 pages, so that's a lot of book to go through with a lot of traumatic and triggering things. So please read the trigger warnings before reading this. This story, you're following our main character who wakes up having not really any memory of how she got here. She's in one of these tubes. So think like a sci-fi movie when people are in like the cryo sleep and like you're stuck in this tube of liquid. You're like frozen in time essentially. She wakes up and she's in this tube. Whoever put her into this tube did not do it properly because she is aware of what's happening around her when she should be sleeping. So she spends over a year, I think 2 years, in this tube awake. That right there like already starts off very traumatizing, very scary. When she gets taken out of this tube, the researchers are like, why are you awake? There's just lots of answers that they are trying to find. In this world, we have the alchemists and we have the necromancers. Our main character, though, she is on one side of this war, the losing side. It is post-war, and she is essentially a prisoner of war. These researchers and scientists are doing experiments on her. She has a piece of information in her brain that they are trying to retrieve. So it does deal with a lot of like torture and things like that, trying to get this information out of her brain. She doesn't have memory. She doesn't know what it is that they are trying to seek, like what answers they are seeking. She's also trying to get answers because she doesn't really know what is going on. She ends up getting taken to the High Reeve, and he lives at this like private manor, and he is the person who's trying to retrieve her memories for the like higher up dude. It's been a while since I read this clearly because I do not remember all the names and terms. You go through ups and downs. It's a lot of downs, but there are some ups. There is some hope thrown in there. Our main character was so resilient. I was so in awe of her and the things that she went through, and you see her reach her breaking point. You see her not even want to live anymore because what is this life that she is living, and you get to see her working through that. I don't want to say too much because I really don't want to spoil people, but if you've read Manacled by this author, apparently it's a similar story. So this is based on a Draco and Hermione fanfic. It did not feel like a fan fiction at all in any way. It felt like a fully developed and thought out story, and characters that each had their own arc, and like the plot, the science behind all the alchemy, everything about it was so well thought out. I really enjoyed this one. I ended up giving it 5 stars. I laughed, I cried, I was shocked and just heartbroken many times while reading this book. If an author can pull that kind of emotion out of me, it deserves 5-star in my opinion. Next up, we have Masters of Death by Olivia Blake. This was another book that I was buddy reading with a few of my coworkers. There was like 4 of us trying to read this book this past month. This book, I had a lot of mixed feelings on it. This is my first book ever read by this author. I've been wanting to get into her books for many years. I tried to get into Atlas 6 years ago, but it was just like wrong timing. I just couldn't get into it. I couldn't vibe with it, so I soft DNF'd it. Not that I won't ever come back to that story in that trilogy because I've heard amazing things. This one though is a standalone, so that's why I was like willing to give it a shot, and also it deals a lot with like paranormal creatures. Literally the title is Masters of Death, and so to me it felt like a really great October spooky month book. It was in a way, but also let me down in a lot of ways as well. This story, you bounce around to lots of different main characters, but one of our main characters is the godson of death. Another main character, she is a vampire. Another character is a ghost. And like, you have any type of paranormal creature is in this book. Something about the mixture of things did not sit well with me, because you're talking about heaven and hell, God and the devil, you're talking about Hinduism, you're talking about mythology and like the Greek gods and goddesses. All these characters are in this book. And it just felt like our author did not choose a lane. Instead, all lanes were open and just anything and everything could be in this book. And maybe that's the point. I don't know. I didn't really jive with it very well. I wish it like stuck with a certain religion or something, certain idea. I don't know. And that's part of the reason why I didn't love this book. I ended up rating it 2.5 stars because of that reason. It was very inconsistent and very hard to get into. The chapters were very weird because some were really short, some were really long. Sometimes you're in a point of view that you don't even know who it is. And so that was very confusing and disorienting. I ended up really enjoying the ending of this book. I would say like the last half of the book, the second half of the book, I actually didn't mind reading. I actually sort of enjoyed, but the first half was so hard to pick through and like figure out things and what's going on in this mystery that's happening. It's all about this game, and like Death goes missing and they're trying to figure out how to get him back because things are starting to go wrong because Death isn't a character at the moment. You're trying to figure out who the villain is, who took Death. Overall, there is this game, and that is the whole point of this book. I know I'm not explaining it very well, but that's the best way for me to explain it without spoiling you. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this to anyone just because of how hard it was to get into. But if you've read other books by her, and since this is my first one by her, maybe this is just how she normally writes. And if you are a big fan of her writing, then definitely give it a shot, because I think it would be a great spooky season book, but it just was not for me. Next up, I read Hot Hex Boyfriend by Carly Bloom. This has been on my list for a while to get to. I always try to read at least one like cute witchy rom-com book per fall season just because it feels like the perfect time to do it. In this story, our main character, she is a witch and she comes from a long line of witches. However, her and her family line has been cursed. They've had this hex on them for generations. They are not able to access their magic. Our main character accidentally breaks the hex, and so all of a sudden they all have magic and they're trying to figure out how to use it and what to do with it. She seeks the help of her neighbor, who is also a witch, and it's just going from there. And like, you're getting dual POV, you're getting her perspective, you're getting his perspective, and he has his own motives, he has his own things that he's trying to do. He's actually tasked with watching her and her family and making sure they don't break the hex. Clearly they do. Now he kind of has to figure out like how to fix things and how to keep everyone safe. I ended up giving this 2 stars. It was just kind of meh. I wasn't overly like excited about this book, unfortunately. I liked our main character, she was great, but the male main character, I didn't necessarily love him. I don't know, I was just bored with this one. Next up, we have Slaying the Vampire Conqueror by Carissa Broadbent. This is in the same world as her Serpent and Wings of Night series. This is a standalone. Technically, it's not a duet, so it doesn't have a second book. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. Our main character, she is a part of this group where basically they serve the goddess of fate. From early on, their eyes are taken and they are not physically able to see, but they can like mentally, they can see differently. So she can see along different like fate lines. She gets tasked with hunting down and killing the vampire conqueror who has come into their country and started taking over everything. She basically fakes being like an oracle for him, and so he brings her along on his journey of conquering all these different territories. Meanwhile, she slowly starts to fall in love with him. I ended up giving it 4 stars. I loved our 2 main characters. I thought the story was really, really beautiful, and I loved their journey together. The way their relationship progressed, like the pacing of this was everything. It was so, so good. I thought it was a really great standalone in the same world because I love her Serpent and Wings of Night series. Really enjoyed this one. It's not necessary to the plot of Serpent and Wings of Night, but if you're just wanting more characters and more insight into the rest of this world, then this is a great book for you. Next, I read This Monster of Mine. Our main character in this book, she was almost murdered. Actually, she technically did kind of die. Did she die? She was almost murdered when she was like 14 or 15. Ever since then, she has been slowly healing and using magic to like hide her scars and try to come back and seek vengeance on whoever tried to murder her. All she remembers is a voice, and that is it. She doesn't remember faces or anything. She is trying to come back to this academy to study magic. It was really interesting because in this book, the magic system has to do with lies and truth. And so her job, think of like going to a courthouse and having a jury. She is basically the jury, and she's supposed to tell truth from lies. And so I thought that was really interesting. I thought that was a fun twist on the magic a little bit. She gets partnered up with a man who has a very similar voice to the one that tried to murder her 5 years years ago. I thought this book was so much fun. I really enjoyed getting into the story and into these characters. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was unique and I loved this world that we were in and getting to learn more about this magic system that we have. The next book I actually listened to on my drive to Branson a few weekends ago, and that is The House of Saphir by Marissa Meyer. This is actually coming out the day that I release this video, so you'll be able to go and buy this book if you have not already done so. This audio was great. I really enjoyed this book. I ended up giving this, I believe, 4 stars. I had an arc for it and I knew I wanted to get to this at some point because this author wrote the Lunar Chronicles series, which I really enjoyed years ago. Our main character, her and her sister, are considered witches, even though they don't really have much magic, but they work kind of like a fraudulent business. Like they're kind of scam artists in a way. Our one sister, she runs like a potion shop, and then the other sister does tours inside of this haunted mansion where the dead wife who got murdered there is a ghost, and she kind of helps her with the scam. That's one of the things that I really enjoyed about this book is our main character, she can see ghosts and she can communicate with them, and so it was really entertaining seeing her communicate with these different ghosts who all have really big personalities. She's on one of her tours when this boy stumbles in, and he is actually a descendant of this House of Saphir that she's been doing her tours in, and he has a ghost problem. The husband who's been murdering all these wives, he thinks that this ghost is back and haunting his other manor that he lives in with all of his staff, and so he asks her to come and help him since he has heard that she's a witch. Her and her sister go on a wild ride to go and try to help get rid of these ghosts, even though they have no idea what they're doing. I thought it was really fun and kind of spooky. Had some spooky scenes as well with all these ghosts. There's clearly like the bad ghost. I felt like I was fully immersed in this world, in this story, and I could very easily visualize what was going on. The next book I read on that same weekend, I actually did a vlog with House of Saphir and this one, and that is Firebird by Juliet Cross. I hadn't heard many people talking about it, so I didn't know what the reviews were. I just kind of went in blind. But this story, it's like if you take the Blood and Ash series and mix it with Game of Thrones, that's kind of what you're getting in this one. It's set in ancient Rome, and there are dragons and like dragon shapeshifters. Our male main character, he is a dragon shapeshifter. He's very powerful. He's the king's nephew. And our main character, she is, I think, technically a witch, but she is a descendant from like, I think, Medusa. The territory that she lives in gets conquered by this dragon shapeshifter, and he ends up taking her captive, and she becomes like his slave for a little bit. He has this connection to her and vice versa, and so it's kind of their story. I didn't really love this one. I gave it 3 stars in the video, but I think I would lower it. I'd probably give it like more like 2 stars, just because I really did not love how sexist the book felt, and like I know it made sense with the time period and everything, but I just didn't love that, and also felt like it was very vulgar in certain chapters for like no reason. It just kind of icked me out in some chapters, and I didn't love our 2 main characters. I didn't love their story and their romance. I feel like I wasn't really rooting for them at any point. The next 2 books that I read are actually a duology, a YA fantasy duology, and that is A Tempest of Tea and A Steeping of Blood. This book just came out this past month, and this one I've had on my TBR for a while. It actually was on my fall TBR last fall, and I finally got around to it this fall, thankfully. But it was kind of perfect timing because the second book came out, and I feel like if I had read this one last year, I would have been so annoyed with the ending. So I'm glad I was able to immediately go into this one, and I gotta say, I thoroughly enjoyed this duology. I ended up giving the first one 4.5 stars, and then the second one I gave 4 stars. I really loved these characters and this world that we are in. If you're a big fan of like found family and like heist, then this is the perfect duology for you. It is young adult, like I said, but we're set in a world where there are vampires and there's humans. Our main character, she runs a tea shop. That's a tea shop during the day, and it turns into a blood house at night, and her tea shop gets threatened, and she has to end up going on this heist to infiltrate this high society of vampires to get a specific thing to help save her tea shop. And so she ends up having to put together a crew of people, and I just loved these characters so much. Like I said, the first book definitely ends in a way where you're gonna want to immediately start the next one. So if you have this book or are considering reading it, I would recommend go ahead ahead and buy the second book as well, because you will be annoyed if you don't get to continue reading it when you finish the first one. And the final book that I finished this month, guys, I have never been more proud of myself for reading a book, and that is My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. If you have followed me for a few years now, you would know this book. I have owned this probably for 4 years now. I need to do the math, but I'm pretty sure it's been like at least 4 years that I've owned this book physically and not read it. It's been on every single fall TBR that I have had since I started this YouTube channel, and I finally got around to it and read it this year. The reason why I didn't read it in previous years is I either didn't get to it or Halloween passed, and then I don't want to read this book if it's not around Halloween. It needs to be read the week of Halloween, and I stand by that. All my books just fell over. Cool. I still stand by that. I felt so immersed and in this story because I read it last week during Halloween. It was like the perfect timing. Really, really enjoyed my time while reading it. It gave me all the feels that I needed for the week of Halloween. It's literally about our main character and her best friend getting possessed by a demon, and she has to figure out how to exorcise this demon. Set in the 80s, definitely felt like it was set in the 80s. I think this author does an amazing job with writing in different decades, because like Witchcraft for Wayward Girls, that was set I think in the 50s or 60s. Everything about his books, like you always feel like you're in that decade, and I really want to read more of his books, more of his writing, because I've enjoyed every single book that I have read by him. I ended up giving it 3.75 stars, so like I said, not my highest rated book that I've read by him, but it's definitely up there. Like I still would highly recommend this book. It was really close to a 4-star. There were just a few things that I didn't necessarily like. There was one thing that happened towards the end that really bothered me, like one scene in the book felt so unnecessary, but I knew it was coming from a mile away, and I was so sad and heartbroken when I read it. But if I take that out of my brain and I ignore that, then I loved this book. I have to now pick up all my books off of the ground. Please hold. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. Ooh. That is gonna be it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed my October reading wrap up. Hopefully this gave you some new books to add to your TBR, or if you've already read them, please comment down below. Tell me what your thoughts were on some of these books and if you enjoyed them or not. I'm just shocked that we are going into a new month. Hello, Murphy. I am shocked that we are going into November. It's crazy that we're already here. I still have like 10 or 11 books on my fall TBR, which is not good. I'm not doing great with my fall TBR. Well, I shouldn't say that. I added a lot. I had like 16 or 17 books on my fall TBR, which was ambitious, definitely, especially since I start reading my winter TBR as soon as Thanksgiving is over. I'm on a little bit of a time crunch this month. I'm gonna have to really kick it into high gear to finish my fall TBR, if I'm going to finish my fall TBR. We got a lot of really fun videos coming up this month. Next week is gonna be a big video. I said what I said. A video we have all been waiting for quite a while now, because I'm annoying and I don't shut up about it. And I've been hinting at it for weeks and weeks. So please stick around. Make sure you stay tuned for next Tuesday, because that video will be up and I'm so incredibly excited. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed and got some entertainment, and I will see you in my next video. Happy reading. Bye.